If you have crossed the threshold of your 55th birthday, that first steaming cup of morning coffee is likely much more than a simple beverage. It is a sacred, non-negotiable ritual that marks the boundary between the fog of sleep and the demands of the waking world. You rely on its warmth, its familiar aroma, and that sharp, reliable jolt of caffeine to clear the cobwebs from your mind and provide the focus you need to navigate your day with the sharp independence you have worked your entire life to maintain. But I want you to pause for a moment and consider a deeply unsettling, highly scientific reality that is currently being ignored by almost every major health headline. That very same cup of coffee, which you have been told is a powerful source of antioxidants, is highly likely acting as a silent delivery system for a deeply corrosive form of biological rust that is actively, aggressively eating away at your neural pathways and structurally aging your brain by a full decade. The stakes here are absolute. This is not about a minor caffeine crash or a momentary lapse in focus. We are talking about the fundamental structural integrity of your hippocampus, the silent, progressive decay of your long-term memory, and the hidden, metabolic mechanism that causes you to feel utterly, completely drained by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, regardless of how much sleep you managed to get the night before. Today, we are going to expose the hidden industrial toxin currently lurking in your favorite roast, and I am going to give you a single, scientifically proven ingredient fix that you can add to your cup tomorrow morning to instantly neutralize this internal rusting and permanently lock in your cognitive resilience. For entirely too many decades, the modern medical establishment and the massive, multi-billion-dollar global coffee industry have placed a heavy, suffocating burden of guilt squarely onto your tired shoulders. Whenever you complained of a racing heart after your morning cup, or an unyielding sense of jittery anxiety, or that impenetrable afternoon brain fog that makes it impossible to recall a simple name or a common noun, you were subtly told that the problem was you. You were told that you were simply becoming sensitive to caffeine as you aged, or that you were suffering from unchangeable genetics, or that your personal stress levels were simply too high for your nervous system to handle. This is a profound, deeply insulting, and highly profitable lie. It is absolutely imperative that you understand right now, in this exact moment, that your caffeine sensitivity is not a personal failure, and it is most certainly not a natural consequence of getting older. You have been the completely unwitting victim of a massive, systemic, industrial betrayal. Since the mid-20th century, the way coffee is grown, harvested, processed, and shipped has undergone a radical, highly toxic transformation designed for absolute maximum profit at the absolute expense of your biological health span. You are not sensitive to the coffee itself. You are sensitive to the biological rust that is a direct byproduct of modern, high-volume industrial processing, a toxin that your brain was never, ever designed to process. The burden of blame stops right here, today. We are going to completely dismantle the paralyzing fear surrounding your cognitive fatigue by looking deeply, rationally, and scientifically into the elegant yet highly vulnerable mechanics of your own neurological system. To truly comprehensively understand what biological rust actually is and why it is so uniquely dangerous to the aging human brain, we must take a fascinating journey into the microscopic architecture of your neurons and the massive, roaring metabolic furnace that is your central nervous system. Your brain is an absolute anomaly in the human body. Despite making up merely 2 tiny % of your total physical body weight, this incredibly demanding, selfish organ aggressively and relentlessly consumes a staggering 20% of your body's total circulating oxygen supply every single minute that you are alive and breathing. This massive, unyielding demand for high-octane cellular fuel is what allows you to think, to remember, and to maintain your complex spatial awareness. But this intense metabolic activity comes with a heavy, dangerous price. I want you to imagine a massive, sprawling, entirely empty industrial steel factory, much like the legendary towering Gangtep complex in the heart of Taiwan. Imagine it bathed in flat, sterile, unyielding clinical lighting, with absolute zero human presence. The massive, heavy conveyor belts and the giant automated blast furnaces run in a perfect, unchanging, endless, highly predictable loop. All day long, while the factory is running at full capacity, It is producing massive amounts of heavy, toxic exhaust and microscopic metallic debris. If this debris is not constantly cleared away, it begins to settle on the delicate internal gears of the machinery. When moisture hits that debris, a chemical reaction occurs. The metal begins to oxidize. It turns into rust. Slowly, silently, and entirely invisibly, the once fluid movement of the gears becomes stiff, jerky, and eventually, the entire machine grinds to a catastrophic permanent halt. Inside your brain, biological rust is a process known scientifically as massive lipid peroxidation. Your central nervous system is physically composed of roughly 60% pure, complex, structural fats. The highly delicate, incredibly thin, deeply vital outer membrane wrapping completely around every single one of your 86 billion individual neurons is entirely constructed from these specific dietary fats. When you are over the age of 55, your brain's natural, ancient antioxidant defense systems, specifically the production of a master protector called glutathione, begin to naturally decline. This makes your fatty neural membranes incredibly vulnerable to the presence of free radicals. Free radicals are essentially highly unstable, hungry molecules that are missing an electron. They act exactly like microscopic biological thieves, violently ripping electrons away from your healthy brain cells. When a free radical attacks the fatty wall of a neuron, it initiates a devastating, aggressive chemical chain reaction. The fat molecules rust or oxidize, becoming stiff, rigid, and completely unable to transmit electrical signals. This is why you feel that heavy, impenetrable mental fog. Your gears are physically, literally, rusting. But here is the terrifying reality. Your morning coffee, which you believe is helping you, is often the single largest source of these electron-robbing free radicals in your entire daily life. To understand why your coffee is causing this internal rust, we must look at the brutal, industrial reality of how your beans are treated before they ever reach your kitchen. Coffee is a deeply sensitive, medicinal plant that grows best in the cool, shaded, biodiversity-rich environments of the high-altitude hills, much like the ancient tea hills of Tan Kyung. In its natural state, the coffee cherry is packed with protective polyphenols designed to shield the seed from the intense tropical sun. But in our modern, hyper-industrialized world, coffee is no longer treated like a medicine. It is treated like a commodity. Massive, sun-drenched plantations have replaced the shaded hills, forcing the plants to overproduce caffeine as a desperate defense mechanism against pests. More importantly, to meet the overwhelming global demand, the beans are often harvested while still damp, and then stored in massive, dark, unventilated shipping containers for months at a time as they travel across the ocean. This creates the absolute perfect, wildly optimal breeding ground for a deeply ancient, highly aggressive biological organism, toxic storage mold. This is not the visible mold you find on bread. These are microscopic fungal colonies that release highly stable, heat-resistant chemical warfare agents known as mycotoxins. Specifically, a toxin called ochratoxin A. When these beans are eventually roasted at high temperatures, the mold itself is killed, but the mycotoxins are entirely heat-stable. They survive the roast, they survive the brewing process, and they land directly in your morning cup. When you take that first comforting sip, these mycotoxins act exactly like a microscopic biological rusting agent. They are highly lipid-soluble, meaning they have a magnetic attraction to the fatty tissues of your body. They bypass your liver, they effortlessly cross your highly restrictive blood-brain barrier, and they settle directly into the fatty membranes of your hippocampus. Once there, they trigger a massive localized surge of oxidative stress. They are the spark that sets the biological rust on fire. This is precisely why so many seniors experience a coffee crash. It isn't just the caffeine wearing off. It is the physical, chemical exhaustion of your brain trying to fight off a localized, toxic assault. You have been falsely led to believe that the jitters and the brain fog are just a part of aging, when in reality, your brain is desperately trying to tell you that its primary fuel source has been contaminated. This brings us to the profound, highly actionable one-ingredient fix that can entirely change the trajectory of your cognitive health tomorrow morning. We are not going to ask you to give up your sacred morning ritual, and we are certainly not going to suggest that you switch to a tasteless, unfulfilling substitute. Instead, we are going to use the laws of molecular biology to turn your coffee from a source of rust into a source of profound, regenerative power. The single most effective scientifically proven ingredient you can add to your coffee to neutralize the mycotoxin assault and halt the biological rusting of your neurons is a highly specific, deeply stable, clean, saturated fat. Specifically, pure, grass-fed ghee, or C8 MCT oil. I know that for decades you have been conditioned by government health agencies to fear saturated fats as the primary enemy of your aging heart. This was perhaps the most destructive, unscientific lie of the 20th century. To your brain, high-quality, stable, saturated fats are not a poison. They are the absolute, non-negotiable building blocks of survival. When you add a tablespoon of pure, grass-fed ghee, which is butter that has been clarified to remove all inflammatory milk solids and moisture, directly to your coffee and blend it into a frothy, creamy emulsion, you are creating a biological Trojan horse. The stable fat molecules in the ghee act as a molecular buffer. Because mycotoxins are fat-soluble, they are immediately attracted to and trapped by the healthy fats in the ghee before they ever have a chance to attack your neural membranes. Furthermore, the ghee provides a massive, stable source of butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that is a primary fuel source for the lining of your gut and a powerful anti-inflammatory for your brain. But the most miraculous part of this fix is how it interacts with the caffeine molecule itself. Caffeine is naturally a very jagged, rapid-release stimulant. It causes a sharp, violent spike in your heart rate and your blood sugar, which is often what triggers the jittery anxiety seniors feel. But when caffeine is dissolved in a medium of healthy, stable fats, the absorption process is dramatically slowed down. The fat creates a time-release effect, allowing the caffeine to enter your bloodstream in a slow, steady, controlled stream rather than a sudden, violent surge. This gives you 6 to 8 hours of perfectly calm, crystalline cognitive clarity without a single moment of jitters, and most importantly, without the devastating afternoon crash. You are essentially taking the biological rust out of the equation and replacing it with high-octane, clean-burning cellular fuel. For those of you who may be currently dealing with a highly sensitive digestive system, a history of gallbladder issues, or a deep personal aversion to the taste of fat in your coffee, I want to provide you with a perfectly gentle, incredibly powerful modification that offers the exact same neurological protection. If you cannot tolerate adding ghee or oil to your cup, your one-ingredient fix is the addition of a highly concentrated pure amino acid called L-Theanine. L-Theanine is a compound found naturally in the ancient tea hills of Tai Nguyen, and it possesses a truly unique, almost miraculous ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. It acts as a neurological handbrake. It specifically targets the overstimulated receptors in your brain and induces a state of relaxed alertness. By adding just 200 milligrams of pure, tasteless L-Theanine powder directly to your coffee, you neutralize the rusting effects of the caffeine-induced cortisol spike. It smooths out the electrical firing of your neurons, protecting them from the oxidative spark while allowing the focus to remain sharp. This modification requires zero digestive effort and zero change to the flavor of your favorite roast, making it a perfect, low-impact intervention for any senior, regardless of their current physical health. As you implement this simple one-ingredient fix, you are doing something far more profound than just improving your morning beverage. You are actively, fiercely taking absolute control of your internal biological environment. You are declaring that your brain is not a machine that must inevitably rust and break down, but a resilient, adaptable, and regenerative organ that simply needs the correct, high-quality fuel to thrive. When you stop the internal rusting, you will begin to notice that the thick, impenetrable cognitive fog of the afternoon completely, effortlessly lifts. You will find yourself recalling names with a speed you haven't felt in 20 years. You will wake up not dreading the day's fatigue, but looking forward to the sustained, calm energy that carries you all the way until the sun sets. You are biologically proving that your independence is not a gift that is slowly being taken away, but a territory that you are actively, successfully defending every single morning. But successfully neutralizing the biological rust in your coffee and shielding your neurons from oxidative stress is only the very first critical step in the ultimate longevity equation. You have protected the gears of your mind, but all of that newfound cognitive clarity is entirely useless if the actual physical electrical grid of your brain is being quietly, violently short-circuited every single night by a massive, invisible mineral deficiency that is currently occurring right now, deep within your bones. You have fixed the fuel, but a completely silent, deeply ignored electrical leak is actively draining your neural energy while you sleep, threatening to undo all of your progress. To immediately discover the terrifying hidden mineral leak causing your brain's power grid to flicker and fail, and the incredibly simple 30-second salty water protocol you must meticulously execute before bed tonight to permanently lock in your newfound energy, you need to click the video currently displayed on your screen right now.